I've got a palette, a beautiful palette actually, that I can't even use because I don't know what shades are in it. A lot of brands are really helpful and really inclusive and will put a shade range list online so you can see exactly what colour it is. Some won't and some don't. Honestly, those brands I've actually just started to avoid. I think I see things differently. I think the reds that I see are completely different. The blues, the greens and purples are all completely different to what you see. And I think when I choose colours and when I use colour, I just choose what I think is going to work. I'm so bored of boring makeup. So anything that has something exciting in it, I'm down for.
Leigh, thank you for joining me on this podcast.
Hello.
Just for everyone that's listening in, obviously, I met Leigh while I was a judge on Glow Up, and he was third runner-up or second runner-up?
Third, yeah.
Third runner-up.
Third.
But what fascinated me about Leigh and why we've got him here on the podcast is because he has a lot to say, but also because I'm so fascinated the fact that he's colorblind, and and our relationship on the show, I was so impressed with your work. And I can't remember, what sort of mistake you made, but you can talk about your experience at the show. But I think it's really important just for those that are listening to see, what opportunity the show gave you, because you are more like an influencer, a public speaker now, you represent all different things, you're, man, you wear makeup, it's a whole new different realm. There's so many things that we could discuss. So let's start from the beginning, your transition into makeup and, what made you get into it?
So I got into makeup. It was Halloween. I've always been fascinated by Halloween. I always loved dressing up, and it was 4 years ago, and I just couldn't decide what outfit to wear or what to paint on my face. And I've done that every year for the last decade. And I just ended up doing too many, and I thought, actually, this is fun. Maybe this could be. And that hobby spiraled into a bit of an obsession. And then Glow Up appeared, and I had too many glasses of wine, applied for Glow Up, and then ended up being judged by Lan, by yourself, at Fashion Week, and it was just an absolute whirlwind. And then that was it, and I couldn't let it go after that, because I went to learn and I went to grow as an artist, and it pushed me so much that as soon as I got home, that was it. I didn't want to work in an office anymore. I didn't want to do what I was doing before, and I just wanted to paint all the time, myself, other people, and yeah, Glow Up did that. I wouldn't be in this position to be able to do that if I had not done Glow Up. So, but that's how it started, and I think I probably would have done it a lot sooner if. I mean, we've talked about before. I had a tutor at college that basically just said, if you are colourblind, you're looking to work in the wrong industry. And that was like, I was only 19 and I was studying fine art, photography, graphic design and fashion, and all of my choices were creative. So for somebody to turn around and say that was it, that my world just imploded, and I was like, well, what do I do? I can't. He's telling me that I can't do it. And I did believe that for a long time. And now obviously we just ignore that and carry on. That's how I got here, and now I'm just absolutely loath to go back to work in an office and to not be doing something that I actually care about all the time. Like, I would rather fight for the rest of my life to be a makeup artist than to go back to an office now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like, I assist a photographer, and you would never know he was colorblind, except he said it once when I asked him a question, and I said, oh. He was asking me about something and about a color, and he goes, actually, he couldn't see. What is it, the color you can't see?
Mine is like red-green deficient. So I struggle, anything with red in, I struggle with. That's the easiest way to look at it.
Yeah. So I remember, him saying something, and I was like, oh my God, you're colorblind. But he was one of the best photographers backstage. And I think for people outside, because when I paint and stuff, I see things all blurry, and yes, it's a bit of a disability, but because you've grown up with it, you sort of work even harder to make it even better. You see things that maybe no one else sees. Do you find it as an advantage? Like, how do you, if you explain to somebody, what is it that you see when you do makeup?
So I'm just looking for a palette, actually. Let me grab. Anyway, when I get a palette, I have to like reference things. So I'm like, okay, that red looks like a cranberry, that red looks like a post box, that red looks like a stamp, and I have to like learn it like that. So when I choose colors and when I use color, I just choose what I think is going to work, and that actually is largely due to yourself and Val and Dom telling me to just get over it, because I needed that. I needed somebody to give me a kick and be like, just deal with it. You've dealt, like you said, I've dealt with it forever, and it never stopped me before. So now, yeah, I see things differently. I think the reds that I see are completely different. The blues, the greens, and purples are all completely different to what you see. And I think I can try and get my point across, but I'm still going to see something completely different to what everybody else is seeing. So
And I think that's an
I think that's
advantage.
an advantage.
Yeah,
because
100%.
you know, if only like 10% of the population can actually see the way it's supposed to look, then that's how I started looking at my work, rather than trying to do it in full color and make it easily accessible for everybody. And that it makes sense. If I do it how I want to do it, it makes sense for everybody, rather than trying to do it a different way.
So for anyone in the world, you know, you've got loads of followers, or people with a disability, or, you know, the same sort of thing as you, what advice would you give to them to sort of step up or want to get into the industry? You know, is there anything that you've learned, you know, yourself that you could share?
I mean, the following obviously comes with Glow Up, so it comes with doing a reality TV show, doesn't it? And that's grown since, and that's really lovely. And I think when anybody that's going to put their art out into the world, so if social media is the industry that you want to work in and that's something that you want to do, then you actually just have to be brave and just get a thick skin incredibly fast, because not everybody's going to love what you do, and that's absolutely fine. That's the same with any type. If somebody is colourblind and wanting to come into different skin textures, skin tones, like ages, it's not just working on yourself if you want to be a makeup artist. And I think that was the difference between doing my own and doing models when we got to Glow Up, because I'd only ever worked on one person before, and other than me, that was a big thing for me. And it was like, actually, this is 10 times harder than I thought, and it's going to take a lot more practice than I thought. But actually, because it's a constant learning thing, that was fine. But I honestly think how you see the world, if you are colourblind, if you've got any kind of colour deficiency in your vision, how you see the world is what you need to put out. I think the sooner you can stop worrying about it and thinking, oh, I don't know if that's blue or purple, I don't know if that's green or brown, and actually, does it work? Do you think it's going to work? If you think it is, then it probably does. And it's just getting past that. It's the anxiety and the stress and the dread of somebody turning around and being like, this is okay, this doesn't work. And actually, in the last 4 years, I've only ever had one person tell me that they didn't like the shade of red that I picked for their lips. So it's not the end of the world. If that happens, you wipe it off, you start again, you're not saving somebody's life.
So when you're on shoots and things, you know, are you still doing retail work?
No, not anymore. So I dropped retail about a year ago and just threw myself into freelance. So I do weddings, I will do regular glam appointments, I work with salons quite a lot.
So from when you started at Glow Up to now, what's the difference of your work as a makeup artist?
I think when I first went to Glow Up, I was very, very heavily influenced by social media. That's where I learned how to do makeup and YouTube. And I thought there was only one way to do a cut crease. I thought there was only one way to do a wing liner. And I think I've learned since then that actually that is a lot of rubbish. There are no rules with makeup action. So I think this shape of wing is going to work, and that's what I'm going to use.
You know, if someone's in your position, you know, whether they have a disability or, you know, that colorblind, because it seems to be quite common, but people don't really talk about it. You know, what advice would you give, you know, from how you dealt with everything? What would you tell?
I think for me, if you are trying to get into a creative industry and you have some kind of color deficiency, or if you have something that you think is going to hold you back, then actually the more you work with it, the easier it gets. And you can learn a lot even just from yourself by trial and error. And I think it's just about breaking through that anxiety and breaking down that wall of, I don't do this because I can't do this. But actually you can do it. And I follow a makeup artist now who is completely colourblind, and she sees in completely black and white, and she still creates beautiful work. So if anything, like, just try. you don't know how it's going to go.
And have you come across then loads of people with the same, sort of way of looking things as well? Or do you find that both of you are completely different how you see things?
It is quite different because obviously she sees in black and white. I'm not at that. My colour deficiency isn't quite that strong. So the difference between colours and shades I can't see. All she gets is a black and white shade pan. So she has to go online and has to learn the same as me, what's in what palette, what colour, why something called meringue is bright orange, and understand it from there. And I think there are ways, like a lot of brands are really helpful and really inclusive and will put a shade range list online so you can see exactly what colour it is. Some won't and some don't. And honestly, those brands I've actually just started to avoid because I've asked and it's just really unhelpful. I've got a palette, a beautiful palette actually, that I can't even use because I don't know what shades are in it. I could sit and ask, but I need that description to go back to.
But how do you know what makes it beautiful for you when you're looking at something? How do you know? What is it?
So I said before about my references with colour. So I think that looks like cranberry, or I think that looks like Coca-Cola, or whatever it is. And I have to go with it from there. So if I pick a palette and I think, oh, all of these references are shades that I would gravitate to because they're shades that I like, I think this looks pretty, it looks grungy, it looks a bit edgy. And I'm so bored of boring makeup. So anything that has something exciting in it, I'm down for.
Wow. Have you seen like pros and cons at all?
Of being colorblind? I think cons sometimes, like, you really, really do have to get your lighting right. So wherever you are
lighting?
Lighting, yeah. I find it easier under a white light. Like the colors are clearer. So if I'm using like a warm light or if I'm doing it in sunlight, that doesn't help me at all, and it actually throws me off because there might be extra pink in somebody's skin that I don't see. So, for instance, I got a little bit of sun yesterday. I didn't notice it. I felt like I've been blushing for the last 2 days, and my boyfriend told me that I look like I had sunburn this morning. But my face looks perfectly clear and just all one shade to me. So, it's like picking it out. And I think foundation matching is always like pick some that you think, try it, whichever one disappears, that's the closest one. There's no secret to finding a foundation apart from learning how to work with them. And I'm sure over the years you've found the same. It's just, I know what shade that is. And that looks
you
like
just know.
Yeah.
It's like doing by memory, isn't it? Really, as well. Sometimes I think most makeup artists, once you get used to a routine, you're doing stuff, you actually don't actually think what you're doing. It's just something in your head. It's like, it's hard to explain if you're not a makeup artist. It's like music to our ears. We're just going through a rhythm. We sort of see a vision, and the information is just there. It's like we've already seen where we're going, and everything just happens automatically. And it's only what I find, I don't know about you, is when you think about it and break it down, is when I sort of get a bit like unconfident, like I go, oh, actually, when I start breaking things down, I'm like, oh, actually, maybe I'm not doing the right thing. But when I'm doing it, absolutely, it's quite easy. Is it the same for you, or have you always got that anxiety? Do you need people to tell you like great job and stuff, or do you just know?
I mean, I think it's really lovely when somebody's like, great job, this looks beautiful. Like that always helps, doesn't it? And it helps improve your confidence. But I think, if I get a bride that turns around to me and she's like, oh, I want a perfect red lip and a wing liner, then I still get that anxiety and think, oh God, I have to do a wing liner. I know I can do it. And I know when I'm there, it'll go on and it'll be fine and I can clean it up. But absolutely. I sit and break it down and I think, oh God, I don't want to do that. But I do it all the time.
But also now, like being obviously as an influencer as well on social media, is it you find it hard to transition for people to take you seriously on jobs?
I think because of how I branded my social media, it being lots and lots of creative work as opposed to like glam, because glam was more uncomfortable for me. Like natural makeup, if I try and take a picture of myself with natural makeup on, with just like browns and nudes on my face, I might as well not bother because I can't see it to edit it. But if I put it on somebody else, I can see what it's going to look like on somebody else. But when I take pictures, I look back and I think, well, I don't know how far I'm going with this editing. And I think my Instagram's very creative. There's lots of like not so much special effects anymore, but more like body painty style, rather than it just being editorial or just being glam or just being bridal.
Yeah.
But I also don't like to be bad at anything. So yes and no, I think. I think some people look and go, 200,000 followers, they're not makeup artists. They obviously just do their own face. But my social media is a completely separate entity to my bridal and my actual work. So I've got a separate portfolio, I've got separate works. Like I just use me because I'm a free model. I'm a free face to work on every single day or whenever I want.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
So I think when people look at it, they can go, but then people that book me or people that I've worked with before can see that I can do something else, and it doesn't necessarily have to just look like social media content.
Okay, and so what did you take away like from assisting and stuff? Because I know you always used to, you're always one of these people that always reaches out, and then when I ask you, oh, like, do you want to, because you do your own stuff and your branding, I'm like, oh, maybe you don't want to assist, but you're always one of these people that goes, please, if you've got anything, I will travel down. What is it that drives you? Or what do you prefer? What the differences in the different industry?
I think I've said this before. I'm a big geek. I love to learn, and as long as I'm learning, I'm happy. And I think makeup, I can always learn, and it doesn't matter if I assist you 10 times or 100 times. Out of those 100 times, you're going to tell me something that I don't know, or you're going to show me something that I don't know, or a technique or a style or something that I can take away and use somewhere else. And I think that's the most attractive thing about makeup for me. Like,
what about like at home, your family and stuff? We don't really get to talk about, the personal side of it. How has it affected you? Like those moments when you wanted to do makeup?
I think it's quite a hard balance, like trying to do full-time social and have an actual client book where I go out and work and manage family life and a relationship. It does get a lot sometimes, and sometimes some things just have to stop. So I'll take a break from social for a week, or if I really, really have to get work done, I talk to my family and I say, look, you need to ignore me for the next 2 days. I'm not in this house. I'm going to be locked in my studio and you're not going to see me apart from at meal times. But I think social media, being like an influencer and actually making a living from that, I think a lot of people don't understand what goes into it. You are not just a makeup artist. You don't just take a picture of yourself. Like there's editing, lighting. You have to be a photographer, videographer. You have to understand trends. You have to understand social media. And I think unless you're in it, it's quite hard to understand. Because I feel like some days I might film loads of content on a Monday and not do any more makeup for 7 days because I don't need to, because I've built it and I've done it. But then I think people look from the outside and go, well, do you even have a job? Is this even a job? It can almost be the same with makeup. And I think unless you are booked and busy constantly, like working a 9 to 5 in makeup, people see it as it's not a job. It's just, you're just painting people's faces. And I'm like, oh, it is a job.
Yes, it is a job indeed. What's next for you? Well, is there anything that you'd really like to, I mean, I know you're still young in the industry, but what are your dreams? Where do you want to go next?
I want to go back and work with Rankin again, because that was just one of the wildest moments of my life. Like, to study photographer for 3 years in college and then just be plonked in his studio and be doing makeup was absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah. So Rankin, please book me again. But I actually just want to do as much offline as possible. Like, I love doing online work and I do love social media, but I actually want to work on other people. Like, I didn't want to fashion a career in social media. That wasn't my goal. My goal has always been to do other people's faces and to work Fashion Week. And do you know what, Vivienne Westwood, that's where I want to go. I would like to do a runway for Vivienne Westwood.
Yeah.
Done.
Right, we manifest that, Vivienne Westwood. Yes. So just as a final point, what is the power of makeup?
For me, it's about that transition, and it's about that feeling that people get. So if I am doing something for me, it's potentially an expression of emotion or feelings, and that's my art. If it's on somebody else, I am completely 1,000,000% doing it for them, because it could be the wedding, and maybe it's the most special day of their life, or it could be something super important that it needs to be. And it's about how, when that person goes and looks in the mirror afterwards, I want them to feel like I've given them a confidence boost, and we've had a really lovely chat for the last hour. And now actually you're a bad bitch and you can go out and do whatever you please, because that's my job. And then that's it. And I just, for me, it's other people. Like, it's my art and it's other people, and it's giving people that confidence and that boost that they need. Always.